Hello. Sort myself out. Get my shizzle together here today. Right. That one's on. This one's about to go on. Hopefully I'll be there with you in a second. Never meet your heroes. That's today's message. Should we just get straight to it? I think we should, shouldn't we? Hang on. Let's do this and then we'll go. Oh, what the heck's happened there? Let's see if I can do this again. I'm trying to do my live. Well, anyway, I don't know if it's working today. Let's play this and see how we get on.
It's the start of the week. Grab your coffee cups. It's Magic Monday.
Live. Oh, slightly late, a little bit of a challenging morning, but I'm here and I want to talk to you very quickly today about why you should never meet your heroes. And of course, there's a story. So last Wednesday, we went to a book launch and it was quite exciting because the book launch was two people. So it was Terry Deary was launching his new book called Actually, I'm a Murderer. And it's brilliant. I finished it this weekend. I read it all in just a few days. It's one of those ones where it sounds like such a cliche, but I couldn't put it down. It was absolutely brilliant. And he was being interviewed at the fire station in Carlisle, the old fire station in Carlisle, and by another author who I love his books. I really love his books. I've read them all by one, I think. I think they're absolutely fantastic. He's got a new one out this summer. I've pre-ordered. I can't wait. And anyway, slight challenge. Terry Deary was brilliant. I mean, absolutely superb. But the other person could have been better. Let's put it that way. I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff that occurred. And I was sat next to Christine, and afterwards, when we walked out, it was like one of those things we were saying, hold it, hold it, hold it. Because we knew as soon as we got outside, we were going to go, what the heck was that about? But we waited until we got in the car and then went, what the heck was that about? And the challenge was this. Terry Deary is obviously a consummate professional. He must have done thousands of these book events. He's written 350 books. 350. He writes 5,000 words a day, 4 days a week. And he just described it as being like a sausage machine, writing the books, getting them out there. His record for a year was 15 books. Anyway, so I really enjoyed listening to Terry, really enjoyed watching his side of things. But the guy who was interviewing him, it was another author, should probably stick with writing books rather than interviewing people, because he made all of the mistakes. He was talking about himself rather than focusing on the person who he was interviewing. Some of the stories that he told about himself were very self-indulgent. He tried to be funny, but it didn't land. He'd read the book about 6 months beforehand and hadn't reread it or hadn't even looked at it. So he started off and he couldn't remember the characters and he couldn't remember certain things about it. And then he gave away a massive plot twist, a big spoiler. This is the guy who's doing the interview, gave away this big spoiler. Oh man, it was a real shame. But I reflected on it and I thought, you know what, whose fault is it? It's not his fault. He's just doing what he's doing. He's doing his best. Most people are just doing their best. It was actually my fault for my expectations being too high. And that's usually the challenge, isn't it? When they say don't meet your heroes, it's because you have ridiculous expectations of them. And when you have ridiculous expectations of people, it turns out that, yeah, you're not going to get the best out of any sort of interaction with them. Oh,
it's the start of the week.
It's the start of the week again. Oh boy. Anyway, it's happened to me a few times actually. I once met Robert Winston on a train, You know, Professor Robert Winston, who does all the fantastic education stuff. I met him on a train, and he was really rude. Now, he might have just been having a bad day. I don't know, but he was particularly rude. Christine once met Janet Street Porter at King's Cross Station. Always around trains, these things, aren't they? And she just read her book and really enjoyed it. And she went over to tell her, and Janet Street Porter was just horrible and rude to Christine. Christine was like, "That's it. I'm never ever going to talk to a famous person again." I've kind of had versions of it. Once I went to do an event, and I laugh about it now. I went to do this event, and I arrived, and the person who booked me looked at me and she went, "Oh, I thought you'd be taller." I honestly felt like saying, "I thought you'd be thinner," but I couldn't. I couldn't do that. So, yes, I did. Oh, here we go. As Alfie saying, I've interviewed some heroes, and they're not now. Oh, man, I know. Alfie, I must have interviewed thousands of people with his job, because he used to host the breakfast show on BBC Radio Newcastle. And I bet there was times, Alfie, when you were thinking, "Can't wait to get rid of them," or "I'd love to trip them up right now, but I can't. I'm not that type of interviewer. I want to be the nice person." Oh, it's hard, isn't it? But also, the other thing is, I've met loads of lovely people as well. I've met people who have turned out to be absolutely charming. So when somebody talks about somebody and saying, "Oh, they're horrible," or "they're this or that," I always say, "Have you met them?" So it's like a classic thing. Somebody the other day said, was talking to me about Prince Harry. That was it. It was Prince Harry. And I said, "Have you met him?" I said, "No, I haven't." I said, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "Well, just what I've seen." So that's pretty not very fair. I've never met him. I don't know what he's like, but I'm just going to have an open opinion until the day when maybe I do meet Prince Harry, and then I'll make up my own mind. But I think the challenge is this, and this is probably the message from today. It's usually our expectations are too high, and that's why we're disappointed when we meet somebody. So if we lower our expectations, then we are going to be thrilled more often. And we shouldn't want them to change. We should just want ourselves to be more accepting. And that's probably in every single area of life. Lower your expectations to be disappointed less. That's the message from today. There doesn't seem to be many people watching live today. I mean, there's just a handful. If you are here, just do a little note so I can see you. I did write a few little things, a few things to ask you. So, live questions. Here we are. Oh, God. I'm trying to not print things out as well. Hang on. Here we go. Over to you. Who have you met that left you feeling starstruck for the better or for the worse? If you don't want to name them, just give us clues. Don't know why I wrote that down. Just name them. I've named a few. Why not? The other thing, by the way, was this same trip that I was on this last week. I had lunch with somebody, and he was talking about having a discussion with Richard Branson and how much Richard Branson disappointed him. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that. I was like, wait a minute, it's not meant to say about Richard Branson. But yeah, he'd really disappointed him, which was a shame. Anyway, who's here? So Alfie Joey's here. Let's bring him up on the bits. There we go. Alfie's got a book coming out soon. If you're connected with Alfie on LinkedIn, go and help him to pick a book title. I know what the book title should be, but you can help him. I don't want to influence it. Matthew Bird's here saying, "Hi, Michael, everyone. Matt's here in the land of smiles." It's Thailand, in case you didn't know. Chris McConnell's here. Yvette Fielding failed to be nice with me at a party. I was disappointed, but Carol Smiley was short and happy. See, that's exactly what we need to see, Chris. That's perfect. 2 names dropped, 1 for a positive, 1 that could have been a little bit better. Nick's here. Hello from Enfield. Hello, Nick. And he says, as a Spurs fan, I've been lowering my expectations. I've been lowering my expectations for years. That's very good. Sam Shepherd. Davina McCall was amazing. So lovely and as expected. Well, I've got to admit, as Davina's one of my best friends, I would concur with that. I've never seen her be anything other than lovely with people. And it's one of my favorite things when people slag off Davina and they go, "Oh, she's horrible." I said, "Have you ever met her?" And they go, "No." I said, "Well, she's one of my best friends." She's charming, actually. She really is. I mean, you might like her as a presenter, but you can't dislike Davina as a human being. I've told the story loads of times, so I'm not going to tell it again about the time when I saw her come out of a restaurant and she hugged a person who was homeless for a good minute, really held them and just let them kind of go into the moment and then just released so gently. God, it was one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen, actually. Matthew here says, starstruck Blue Peter presenters back in the 80s. Peter Duncan. Did you meet them, Matt? I bet you got a Blue Peter badge. Sam says, I met her at the Great North Run. Well, I guess, Sam, if it was at the Great North Run, that was the same year that she had a bit of a name drop here, but I'm going to do it anyway, Sam. She had dinner here the night before. So she was running with 3 friends. And so we had 4 of them came over to here for dinner. And Christine did a pasta party and had 3 different types of mega pasta. And then the next day we went down and we hopped on the celebrity bus. And the great thing is when you're with Davina, nobody questions you. And we went into the VIP bit. Nobody questioned us. It was really good. Right, here we go. Jan Murphy, Gareth Brooks, met and interviewed him in Ireland, and he was a true gentleman. Yes. It's always reassuring when somebody's going to be nice and surpass my expectations. Excellent. Nick says, I went to see Soccer AM being filmed back in 2004. Tim Lovejoy and Helen Chamberlain were absolutely lovely to us. Yes. Tim gets a lot of bad press, but I found it to be a really nice chap. See, that's what we want to hear. Who are the nice people? Kiwi et moi. This is here. I've met Davina and Michael, such lovely people. Also bumped into Gok Wan and Sally Lindsay in Soho, and they couldn't have been nicer. A group photo with them all. That's lovely. I love it when you hear the nice stories. So yeah, keep sharing. Let me know who's nice, who could have been nicer. But remember, the message is not about who's nice and who's not. The message is we need to change our expectations. Those people are just being themselves. And sometimes we never know. They might have had a bad day. They might have had a bad morning. They could have had just some news just right before you went up and said, can I get a selfie? I don't think it is the cost of fame. Some people say, well, if they don't want to be bothered, they shouldn't be famous. I think there's other things at play here. Sometimes it is just the right thing to do to give people some space. Christine's brilliant at that, by the way. She's really good at saying to me, just leave them be. Let them get on. Let them have their day. They don't need you going up and saying hello. Last one, Alfie Joey says, Michael Crawford, utterly brilliant. Again, that's what we want to hear. Thank you very much, everybody. Apologies that I started a couple of minutes late. Let's play the music out, and we will see you next Monday for more Magic Monday live from the short bloke. Could have been taller.